Hello, everyone. I am back to talk to you about some new developments in regard to Michael Tate, that scandal, in regard to a case also that I've been reporting on. It is a civil case. The plaintiff is Randall Shrum, and he has sued civilly in federal court several individuals, to include Wes Campbell, the owner of Newsboys, as well as some of his family members and two other individuals with the last name of Harrison. And in my last video, I reviewed and went over the entire pleading, the complaint. It was the amended complaint, and it added two defendants to the action. Now, when I went through it, as I said in my video, I just read through the complaint and all the allegations that are contained therein. That I didn't go through every single one, that were essential, that supported the counts that are asserted that the defendants are being accused of doing. And so there are 11 counts, and there are two new defendants. And when I was going through it, I kind of scrolled by really quickly because I was trying to get to the end. So I want to start off by going through some things that I wanted to address in that initial video. And I want to talk about somebody who is trying to intimidate and silence me. So if you looked at the video, you saw that there's a picture of a young man, and he is one of the new defendants. Let me get his name. His name is Riku Higurashi, and he is a son-in-law of Aaron and Mark Harrison, and they are two of the defendants here. And I talked about it briefly in what his involvement is, but I'm going to go through that and start out by saying that after I uploaded my video, Riku Higurashi decided to make comments on that video, and interestingly make statements, and then would say that he couldn't make statements and talk because he has a gag order on him, which was very interesting since he was doing exactly what he was claiming he couldn't do. And just being very just rude. I could use other words. And clearly he's got someone else from his family, because the channel name is Higurashi Family. And when I suggested, when they said, why don't you ask my opinion? That's a dare. Do you want to hear it? I asked them to speak, but then they would counter and say that they couldn't, which is interesting. So then I suggested, why don't you start your own channel, and that you and your buddy just prove you're a bunch of bullies. And in response to that, this person said, and look like a self-proclaimed authority on church and scripture and make a fool of myself like you're doing. So this individual is quite incensed that myself, on my channel, I am creating videos. And the interesting thing is, says that I should go and research before I get on my own channel and talk about things. Well, I think you should have done your own research and looked at my channel to see what it was all about. Because if you did, you would realize that what I do on this channel is talk about people that I have researched. And you clearly have not researched me, because you made that statement telling me I should do my own research, but accusing me of doing the same thing you're doing. And interestingly, making these statements that in the spiritual, I'm not seeing things. Well, if you had done your research and watched my videos, you would have seen or heard me say that the Lord clearly directed me to this case. And if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to listen to it. And as I suggested, if you want to be heard, you could have responded, but you decided not to, or you could start your own channel. So that being said, you guys know, anybody that follows me who's a regular subscriber or listener, you hear me say this all the time. Your words can be used against you. So these people, one of them is the defendant, and the other one, it could be the defendant or perhaps his family, because it has his last name and says family. And your words can be used against you. So that's just, a bit of free advice. I would hope that this defendant, has his own attorney, but I don't know. He's coming on to my channel making a lot of statements. And I suspect if he's watching that he's probably going to delete them. If that happens, it doesn't matter. I have screenshotted them. So back to the amended complaint. In regard to Wes Campbell, and just for a recap, remember, this is Randy Shrum. He's one individual. He's suing a bunch of people for conspiracy, harassment, and First Amendment rights to freely gather together and worship. And this is all based upon an issue they had in a church because there was a mob that entered the church and essentially was yelling at people, intimidating people. The church members left, and it appears, based upon this lawsuit pleading, that they went and started their own church called Refuge Ridge. And as it is alleged in this lawsuit, that even despite leaving that church with the Campbells and the Harrisons, that there continues to be harassment, even though they have left and they're trying to live their lives. That is what is alleged in the complaint. And so in regard to Wes Campbell, who is the owner of Newsboys, as I mentioned in the last video, he has not been served, to my understanding, with this lawsuit yet. However, and I'll talk about it in just a minute, you have probably heard the news that he is now suing, because in the news, it's Newsboys is suing a company, and we're going to get into that. So he's got a bunch of lawsuits going on. So I just want to finish this up just to help you understand what is contained in this complaint as it relates also to Wes. So after following the filing of this new lawsuit, Wes, that's Wes Campbell, Rocky, his brother, Colin, his father, and the rest of the defendants that are named, and those acting in connection and participating with them, sought to further obstruct justice by threatening and intimidating Randy, and threatening and intimidating witnesses that they believe to be aligned with or supporting Randy. And specifically, the defendants have made veiled threats through third parties to file a lawsuit and or make false allegations of sexual abuse against a former member of Hilltop leadership. And this individual was not specifically identified, but as you may recall, we saw that there was an allegation against Randy of a sexual nature contained in the Roy's report that I talked about it before, and then it was later removed. So this former member of the Hilltop leadership, unless the individual either convinces Randy to dismiss the lawsuit, or short of that, refuse to testify in Randy's favor and instead align himself with the defendants and against Randy. So the allegation here is saying that they're using these third parties to essentially try to get Randy to drop his lawsuit, or get people that are going to be testifying on behalf of Randy to instead align themselves with the defendant, get on their side instead. It further states, upon information and belief and in furtherance of this threat, Wes and Rocky have communicated with adult nephews within the Campbell family to use them as proxies to make veiled threats of stating false allegations of SA against this former member of the Hilltop leadership, so that the obstruction conduct cannot be traced back to the defendants. It also states that Colin made threats regarding Randy in front of third parties, specifically that if Randy does not dismiss the lawsuit, he will ruin Randy's reputation to every single member and supporter of Hilltop Fellowship and Refuge Ridge. These are the allegations. Above Rubies, that's the ministry that is run by Nancy Campbell, that's Colin Campbell's wife, and the Gulf Coast Family Retreat, thereby... I'm sorry, that was a comma and not a period. So let me say that again. So if Randy does not dismiss the lawsuit, he will ruin Randy, and Randy's reputation to every single member and supporter of these churches. So Hilltop Fellowship, Refuge Ridge, Above Rubies, and another one called Gulf Coast Family Retreat. Consistent with this threat to conduct a broad campaign to ruin Randy's reputation, upon information and belief, Wes and Colin, along with the other defendants and those working in active concert and participation with them, have engaged with and recruited influencers, media outlets, private investigators, and even estranged members of Randy's own family to further the conspiracy to harass, attack, and defame Randy, and also improperly and independently coerce, pressure, and unduly influence Randy to dismiss this lawsuit. So, I talked about this in several videos because these allegations are very serious. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If that's what's happening, and this is a conspiracy allegation that these group of people are doing these things in furtherance to do something harmful to Randy. So what Randy has done is he's filed this lawsuit, and I've shared it before. This is my opinion because obviously I do commentary. And if I was in this position, that you have nowhere else to go, right? I mean, if you have people that are really trying to do damage to you, and what are you going to do to protect yourself and protect your family, protect your ability to live, your ability to just do life? And unfortunately, it has gotten to this. And there's a reason. I don't know why, but the Lord definitely highlighted this case to me. And I find it very interesting, in just the rumblings that, I've shared this before. People have contacted me that are siding with both sides, but I'm not sharing that information because they haven't said I can, and I'm not going to do that. So the information that I talk about, it's coming from this pleading that's filed. Now, on the other side of it, the defendants will have their opportunity to file a pleading that's by their attorney. And when that comes out, I will certainly address that as well. So it's further asserted that that Colin stated to the organizers of Gulf Coast Family Retreat that something big was going to come out about Randy from the internet that is really bad. Around these comments, Wes stated to numerous people that he hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on Randy. Now, when you see statements like this, these are allegations in a complaint, and you hear me reading it, upon information and belief. That's the language that the attorneys put in there, because they are they're making these statements taken from information they have. So in a lawsuit like this, they will need to have testimony. They might even have text messages, emails, documents, who knows, a whole slew of information, but that has to support these allegations. Upon information and belief, Wes and Colin, along with the other defendants and those working in active concert participation and conspiracy with them, have even contacted estranged members of Randy's family, searching for ways to mischaracterize decades old information to defame Randy and place him in a false light. Upon information and belief, and following Colin's comments on July 2nd and 3rd, and the defendants and those acting in concert either utilized or misled journalists and media outlets, including the Roy's report. So there it is. To spread extremely damaging and false statements about Randy, his wife, and members of their family that defamed Randy and placed him in a false light. Telling these false statements were consistent with the false reports of child abuse already submitted by Vange, Colin, and Nancy to DCS and to law enforcement. Based upon the statements of Wes and Colin, and upon information and belief, each of these efforts were undertaken to coerce, pressure, and unduly influence Randy into dismissing this lawsuit, or else make an example of Randy, so that his supporters and potential witnesses favorable to Randy would be coerced, pressured, and unduly influenced to alter their testimony, refuse to testify, abandon their support of Randy, and or support the defendants instead of Randy. So this is these, again, very serious allegations. And if that's what is happening here, that is very troubling. These are Christians, right? They all have ministries. They're all involved in ministries. And that's what this channel and my podcaster friends were all about. We're talking about the things that are going on in church that shouldn't be happening. And, I was just listening to a podcast when I was on my way in, and somebody was talking about, well, somebody that, they're a missionary. I can't remember. It doesn't matter who the name is, but they're making an allegation that somebody that's a missionary goes to Africa, and all while doing that good, they were having affairs and abusing people, right? This happens. We want to purge this disgusting behavior, this unbiblical behavior out of the church. That's the purpose of my platform. That's what I talk about. And a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people with big platforms, small platforms like me. And it's just not going to go away, because you've got people like, recently, I just talked about it in a video. You've got Mike and Cindy Jacobs going on a podcast with Bob Hassel, if I'm saying it correctly. And they were talking about people. It's that cover up culture versus exposure culture. That's what's going on. I'm not saying I have a ministry of exposure, but this is where the Lord has brought me, wants me to do. We see it over and over in every single story that I talk about, my podcaster friends talk about. You see the bullying, which we just saw. Well, I saw it on my channel with one of these defendants. Can you imagine? Let's talk about one of the cases that I've been reporting on, which most of you guys know, is the Tom Cassie one. He has been charged with over 30 felonies, right? And he's waiting for a criminal trial. Can you imagine if, in response to one of my videos, he's a defendant, he's a named defendant, criminal, but he's a named defendant, that he started responding to on a thread on my channel? I wouldn't expect that. Nor would I expect in any of the civil cases that I'm also talking about, Robert Morris. So Robert Morris has a criminal case against him, but he also has a civil one against him. And there's also other named people in that. I wouldn't expect any of those defendants to come on and start harassing me and trying to silence me and things like that. I think that is very, very troubling. They have, in both cases, the one with Robert Morris and the one that we're here on today, the allegations are that you are defaming. So any statement, and other things, that you're harassing as well in this case. So any statements that you make in any format can be used against you. So it's should we chalk it up to immaturity? Could be. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt. You know that. So hopefully that is what it is, that it's just immaturity. But the problem is that when you come on to somebody's channel and you're making those statements, well, doesn't that just kind of prove the allegations in this complaint? Because you're being accused of intimidation, coercion, pressure, harassment. Something to think about. So let's get into the other things that are in the news, and that is Michael Tate. And if you guys recall, when I covered Michael Tate a couple months ago, I said, I really anticipate, because so many victims were coming out. There was a very thorough workup on it. It was in the Roy's report, and there were some victims, some survivors that were providing their names, some were not. And they were very thorough in that. And now there's news that there's an open investigation in Tennessee by the either sheriff's department or local police, what have you, in regard to those accusations. And we're going to get into that. But first, still a bit about Wes Campbell, because he is the owner of Newsboys. Recall, Michael Tate was the lead singer of Newsboys. And recall, he left the group in January of this year. Now, as I said in the thumbnail, Wes Campbell has a bunch of lawsuits. So not only is he the defendant in the case that I was just talking about, but he's a plaintiff now because he's suing this company called Faith Live. And I guess it's a Canadian company, and I'm not sure where that complaint was filed, if it was filed in the States or if it was filed in Canada. So I'm going to be talking about this. So I'm going to be looking for that to see where it is. But Faith Live, I went to their Facebook page and they posted this. Faith Live stands for truth. We never imagined we'd be here. Faith Live, a small Canadian-based concert promoter, is now being sued by one of the biggest names in Christian music. Why? Because we refused to stay silent when we saw unethical behavior, broken promises, and a lack of transparency that hurt churches, fans, churches, sponsors, and ministries. We choose integrity over intimidation. So that's really the theme of what we do here, right? We're not going to stay silent. Sorry, there's something on my face it's probably hair and it's bugging me. But we're not going to stay silent and be bullied. That's the point here. If I didn't call out this defendant, who I don't know why he's doing this on my channel, but if I didn't call him out, I would be a hypocrite, right? I'm going to call out the bullies. Faith Live was built to serve God's kingdom, not an industry machine. That's a really good, bold statement. That is a ministry, by what they're saying, that has integrity. They're not going to be intimidated. They're standing for truth. They said, we've always been about honesty, accountability, and making sure that the gospel is not overshadowed by greed or power plays. Thank you. Thank you very much. People want to see this. Please pray for this company. Again, it's called Faith Live. They are a small company, they say, in Canada. We are not a big corporation with millions to burn. We're a small family-run ministry with a heart for bringing people to Jesus through music. But we will not be bullied into silence, not by anyone, no matter how famous their name is. Well said. And that's the common theme on my channel and on all of my friends' channels as well. To our friends, supporters, and every person who values truth, pray for us, share our story, and stand with us. So please pray for them, share their story, get on Facebook and give them a like. Because at the end of the day, this is bigger than a lawsuit. This is about what kind of witness we want Christian music to be. Indeed. Not only is there significant exposure going on in churches, large mega ministries, it's now in Christian music. God's hitting every avenue. He is purging all that decadence, all that evil, all of the abuse, everything that doesn't belong there, he's purging it out. And they said, we will fight, not in anger. We're not angry, we're sad, but in truth, we know that the truth will set us free. Amen. So the Royce report came out with an article by Jessica Morris yesterday on August 12th, and it says, police launch Michael Tate investigation, and it says Newsboys fight for survival. That's the heading. So police in Brentwood, Tennessee have confirmed that they're conducting a preliminary investigation into the former Newsboys lead singer Michael Tate following several allegations of SA. And so they're talking about this this investigation is at Brentwood Police Department. So that would be a city that's outside of Nashville, and they are currently investigating. Are we going to see criminal charges? Could be. Now, you guys know, and you've heard me say this before, in regard to, SA, when people come out, sometimes they come out late, and that happened here too. But my understanding also from what we've seen is that this has spanned decades. So some of them might be barred by the statute of limitations, some might not. In an interview with People magazine, Davis, so that's Sean Davis, he's one of the alleged victims, he stated that Tate may have up to 1,000 victims, and he's urging them to come forward. So if anybody, please, I know that people comment all the time and they say how hearing these videos is really healing, it's helping, and so you do have support. There are many people coming forward. So if you are a victim, please come forward. Go to the Brentwood Police Department if that is where the SA occurred in that jurisdiction. He says, ultimately, the goal is to see him go to prison. We need every single victim possible to come forward. They deserve to know that they're not the only ones, and they deserve to have their story told. Davis previously told the Roy's Report that he was drugged and R-worded by Tate when he was 17. Now, he and other named victims, Randall Crawford and Jason Jones, are working to press charges against Michael Tate. So it goes into that. They all want justice. And it talks about the lawsuit filed by Newsboys. And interestingly, it's a there's a period there, $5.4 million defamation suit that Newsboys filed against Faith Live. What's interesting is the lawsuit where Wes Campbell and his family, the civil lawsuit that they're named, the original complaint sought $5.4 million. And so I think that this suit was filed before the amended, which the amended suit was just filed last Friday. In the amended suit by Randy Schraman against the Campbells and Harrisons, he's now asking for about $16 million. But before that, his original lawsuit, and I think it was filed, it could have been in June, it was asking for $5.4 million, the same amount. Isn't that very interesting to me? I have no idea if it has any relevance. I saw that number. I'm like, I know I saw that number before. So in this lawsuit, this is a civil lawsuit now against this Faith Live company, the one that I just shared that they wrote that post. And according to the lawsuit, Newsboys have been seriously injured due to defamation by Faith Live owners Sheena and Nick Hennick. The Hennecks argue that the Newsboys breached their agreement after Tate stepped down in January, changing the lineup of the band and causing a slump in ticket sales. In the lawsuit, the Newsboys specifically referenced alleged defamation of Faith Live in Sheena Hennick's exclusive interview with the Roy's Report, their customer service emails, social media content, and comments made by the couple about the band. And so it goes on and talks about the Newsboys have been, statements that they made, that the Newsboys have been, in the lawsuit, they're stating that the Newsboys have been seriously injured in their credibility, character, and reputation, especially in relation to their standing in the Christian rock scene, and that they have suffered damages, both reputation and special damages related to loss of opportunities. So Newsboys is filing a lawsuit for damages, $5.4 million. Well, who is it being brought by? Well, the owner of Newsboys is Wes Campbell. In that lawsuit, they blame Faith Live for the loss of multiple tour dates in Wisconsin, New York, Indiana, and a performance at Glow Festival in Finland, and their loss of placement on Christian radio stations, and the collapse of a developing children's show. And it goes on and talks about it, and you can find that on the Roy's Report, and just goes through the allegations saying that they have been, essentially their reputations in the music industry have been harmed. And so that's their basis for seeking damages. Again, I would like to get my hands on the actual complaint so I can go through it. What I'm reading to you is something that you can easily read. It's on the Roy's Report from their article from yesterday, August 12th. And it goes by, it goes back and reiterates the allegations. Remember, we all saw that video in the hotel and where Matthew Brewer, the allegation is that he R-worded her, and the allegation is that Michael Tate watched that, and that the allegation is that Michael Tate drugged her. So all of this is back in the spotlight, and it's being reported about here. And now what we're seeing is the lawsuits. And that's what I said early on. When this first came out, what are we going to see? Are we going to see criminal charges? Are we going to see some civil charges? What I had anticipated was the criminal charges against Michael Tate. Well, now we're seeing an investigation. I anticipated that hand in hand that it would go with civil charges against Michael Tate. We could certainly see that. But then in the midst of it, we've got Wes Campbell suing another company for allegations that that people have defamed his group and causing damages, and that he is also being charged with defamation as well. So it's very interesting. And perhaps that's why there's a lot of moving parts, and maybe that's why the Lord has directed me to this particular case, but I know it's going to be one that I will be reporting on. And I anticipate that if I can get that complaint, because if it's not in the US, if it was filed in Canada, I'm not sure what their rules are, because it might be different. Here in the United States, we can typically get copies of any pleadings that are filed. Not always, but in most cases. And I'm not sure what the rules are in Canada. So that is going to be something that we need to wait and see. And I am going to be talking about this whole subject with what's in the news right now with Michael Tate, with Wes Campbell in regard to this lawsuit. I'm going to be talking about it with my friend, Londa Parker. You know, Londa Parker, here all day, Londa Parker, and I'm here all day for this kind of information so that I can provide it to you and I can give you commentary from a legal perspective. And yeah, that's what we're here to do, and we're not going to stop. And, in light of this past week and a half with Lisa Stribling coming out and saying just the horrible things that she said on her platform at her church, saying that God has pardoned her brother, Mike Bickle, who, has essayed multiple people and who has not repented. And yet through her mouth, she claims that God is speaking, alleging that there is a pardon for him, although she claims that she doesn't even know what he did or that he even did anything. Very bizarre. And that there's a pardon to everybody else that has spoken about the story of Mike Bickle. It's very provincial, like the world, just revolves around them. But this is what we're here to do. We're going to call out those wolves, and they actually mark and identify themselves as wolves. A lot of them are not even wolves in sheep's clothing anymore. They are making statements, they are acting, they are raging, they are confirming who they really are. And that's what we are. This was some people's platforms, including mine, was launched for that purpose, to talk about these things. And I believe that as we continue to navigate this, there is healing for those who are affected by all of it. And for me, you've heard my story. I was affected but I wasn't a victim, but just because I was a part of IHOP. So I was affected by that. There are people who are whistleblowers. There were people that were somebody shared she was 30 years at IHOP, and she wrote a comment, and she was very thankful because she said that my video was very healing. And I love hearing that, even if it just helps one person. I love to hear that. If it has helped you in any way, it has given you some semblance of healing, and even a partial healing, full healing, whatever it is, that is our goal here on this channel. And we're here for each other. This is a community effort. I love the fact that all of you have great comments. We learn from each other. We share with each other. And we're going to continue to forge ahead. So with that being said, that is all that I'm going to report on today. I do want to make one other announcement. If you didn't catch it, I was on Everett, Ohio for Freedom. I was on his channel this past Monday. So 2 nights ago. I will be on his channel again tomorrow night. He has done some amazing investigation in regard to, see, I'm talking about so many things. It's Rock something church. Now I can't remember, but it's Darlene Bishop. This happens where I just brain freeze. And we're going to be talking about more stuff tomorrow night, on Thursday night, on his channel. So look for that. And then I will definitely update you when I'm going to be on Londa. And check out her channel if you have not already, Londa Parker, Uncaged with Londa Parker. And we've got Lynn Demarys from Gospel of Narc. She is going to be on Everett's channel tomorrow night as well. So I look forward to just step on over to that channel so that you can catch that video, and I will see you soon.